Everybody. Yes. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cheryl Matthew, and this is a weekly gathering, chat, discussion through the organization of Heartfelt Foundation and MSIA. And the title is Navigating Aging. I happen to be a geriatric care manager for 20 some years and helped a lot of families through the aging process and all of that. So we have a different topic each week. And so we have information and we also, after that, we share with whatever you want to talk about. And for the last 2 weeks, we've talked about the holidays and how to create the holidays that we want, what the holidays mean, all of this. And today's going to be kind of an open discussion. And every week I just kind of tune into what seems like a topic that would be of value for the group. And so today I thought of this book. It's an old book. It's called Christmas is Inside of Us. It's a booklet, actually. And it's an interview with John Roger. And I also saw this interview posted on the New Day Herald that came out in the email on December 2nd. And I was especially interested in it because of the time of year. But another reason is we've got a 16-year-old daughter. And I was talking to her the other day, and she loves Christmas. She loves Christmas time. And she loves getting the tree and decorating it and getting out the ornaments and all that. So we have like traditions of like, she and I usually do the cutting of the tree and the placing of the tree in the stand. And Karen and Mackenzie do put the ornaments on. So we each have our thing. And so she loves Christmas. And I was asking her, like, why, what do you think you like, what do you like so much about Christmas? And she said, I've never thought of it specifically as a religious holiday. So she doesn't relate to it that way. Although, there are elements of that, but she was trying to describe what she loved so much about it. And this book, this article, this interview with John Roger, he really talks about that as Christmas is a time where when so many people are focused on loving and peace, then it creates this energy that we can get into that loving and peace inside of ourselves and feel the blessing of the Christ. So Christmas could be in July, for example. So it's the focus and the colors and other holidays as well, like Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights and all of that. But it's the focus of a large amount of people. So I wanted to read you a little bit from this. And again, the whole article is in the New Day Herald. And then afterwards, I'd love to hear your experience or anything you want to share with us. Somebody's joining right now. All right. Okay, so this is from, again, the Christmas is Inside of Us. Come Christmas time, people start to decorate things differently. They use different colored lights. Oh, sorry, this is John Roger talking. Come Christmas time, people start to decorate things differently. They use different colored lights and symbols and colors. That appeals to the psychology of the inner awareness. We not only just like to see them, but go out of our way to see them. We will travel miles to see somebody's house that has been decorated for Christmas. Now, human beings have the ability to impregnate things with their energy. We make a house a home because we home it. We make this building we're in part of now part of a sharing and and a caring, a sanctuary, if you will. Because we all come here with that energy, this is a safe place. Prana has the same type of energy. Architecturally, Prana, the building, may not be as uh, pretty as lots of other places, but when people go there, their other senses come awake. Then Prana takes on something quite different, and people who do not yet know what to look for, yet still see the essence in this place to meditate. This is a place where spirit is. God is someplace around here. Those of us who've been to Prana, making sure God comes there by being open and receptive to God, we smile, knowing our work is bearing the spirit, the gifts of spirit, because the other person knows it and nobody ever told them. What it boils down to is that Christmas is inside of us. The Christ Mass, which is also known as the Michaelmas, takes place in the kingdom of heaven inside of us. There's a biblical scripture that says that the kingdom of heaven is being taken by force. This doesn't mean that evil people go into the kingdom of heaven. It's really saying that the disciples of the kingdom of heaven are coming out through all of their negative, disruptive behavior. They are coming into this world and taking the kingdom of heaven by the force of getting rid of their negativity. Their chastisement of the Lord is the preparation for entering the kingdom. That can happen when a person's yelling and screaming, but most of us are not going to be chastised by the Lord through some other human's voice. Therefore, we don't get to the kingdom of heaven. Instead, we get the self-righteousness nod of the ego. We don't find the kingdom of heaven wherein lies the Christ Mass, wherein lies the Michaelmas, wherein lie all the saints, wherein lie all the sacred traditions of paganism, all of it that once worked in the spirit. Some of it worked in the magnetic field, and it's not quite on. It's close enough that there's something there, but not enough. You're not going to lay your body on the line for it. When the kingdom of heaven is being stormed by the disciples of God coming forward in the world in a loving way, then it's not struggle in the sense that the kingdom of heaven is being taken by violence. The disciples of heaven have come through their own violence and are coming out into the world now as ministers of peace. Ministering peace is the message of Christmas. When you start to come back to the altar of knowledge, of experience, of beingness, it doesn't matter what you did yesterday. When you get to the altar, you find out that you always lay yourself on the altar. You always look up with the eyes as though it's out there, someplace separate from you. But when you say, look up, the kingdom of heaven is nigh, we're always talking about looking up inside of you to the greater, more wonderful things, going past the ego, the mind, and the emotions into spirit. When we've done that, the angels minister first, and then the Archangel Michael comes in and performs the first ordination, the Michaelmas. When we have fulfilled the rituals of angelic ministry, then the angels minister to us, the 7 lights at the foot of God, the 7 angels, the 7 archangels. When we've done that, then we're ready for the Christ Mass. When we have the Christ Mass or Christmas, it is not the exchanging of a gift out there, but a receiving of the gift into you. At that moment, you become the altar for all things, and they're sacrificed on you. The altar is always bloodied and it's always been cast down in the end. Its purpose is only for a time. Then it must recycle itself again because of the nature of humankind. I was having dinner last night with Phil Anthony and Michael Fader. I got to sit between the two of them on in a curved booth. I reached over and touched them and I said, "This feels like Christmas to me." They looked at me and I said, "It's because I'm with people who love, not people I love, but people who love." There's a difference. I didn't have to love them. They were loving. It was just one of those wonderful spiritual evenings when we talked about sushi and Mount Fuji. We talked about buildings and architectural drawings. We talked about satellites and pictures and communication. But the subtext of all of that was people who are loving. That to me is Christmas. And maybe we don't need a tree because that's really a heathen thing. But maybe we need to dress ourselves up, not in beautiful, rich adoration, but in the spirit of our beingness. Maybe we wash our faces and we just come in the door and we sparkle. We become the lights on God's tree of humanity. And the gift is we're there. That's the gift. I've received a lot of Christmas presents from people, the gifts of materiality, which is fine. I pick up the gift and all of a sudden I know who's given that gift to me because they gave something else besides the material. They gave that something else while they were buying the gift because they thought of me. They gave that while they were looking for wrapping paper because they looked for special paper for me. When they took the gift home and made sure that its price couldn't be found, they had to think of me. When they wrapped it and they fixed it so I wouldn't break it, so when they got it, they could think of me. And then when they wrote my name on the package, they had to think of me. That was the gift because every time they did, they were blessing me. Because they were loving me all the time, they were doing it. So I get loved and blessed and prayed for continuously by people who are loving. And then at the very end of the article, the interviewer says, is there any last thing you'd like to share before we conclude this interview? Sure. Every time a person does spiritual exercises, it becomes Christmas. It becomes the festival of lights. It becomes Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. It becomes the festival of the tabernacle and the festival of the trumpets. It becomes the restoration of the king. It becomes the prophets of old. All the scriptures become alive because you're walking with God. Maybe at that point you don't know it because when you look back, there's only one set of footprints. Then you have to wonder who's doing the spiritual exercises. That's the gift of opening that package. I think Christmas to a lot of us is the surprise of the package. I'm often surprised when I open something and see it. I say, I would never have bought that for myself ever, but somebody else did. And I really did want it. I really did. And I got it. Then I turn around and darn if I don't give it to one of the staff members to start playing with first, because what I really wanted for me that I really would enjoy, I would want them to have so they could share in the joy. So I give them the thing, thinking they will do it. Often it will, and they come back to me and say, let me show you how it works. And then the joy is returned all through the object. So we use everything to our advantage and upliftment. A lot of times I'll give a person a gift and everybody will see it and they'll say, wow, that's really neat. I've seen the person turn around and say, Merry Christmas. And the gift that I gave them, they give to somebody else. And I look at them and get tears in my eyes because this is truly loving one another. This is a real, true, physical manifestation of Merry Christmas. May you use this to find Christ in you even more deeply. What a gift. So,
good morning. Where
good
can you
morning.
find that article again?
Yes. So this is an old pamphlet that they sent out for Christmas a long, long time ago. I got it as a student, but now I just saw it come in the New Day Herald email that comes out. I got mine December 2nd.
Okay.
So where it says articles, it'll say Christmas is inside of us.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And welcome. Glad to see you. So as I was reading, I was realizing I didn't call in the light. And then as I stumbled over a few words, when I said, oh yeah, we haven't called in the light, I called in the light and then my reading got better. So light. And it's nice that it can just be that easy. It doesn't need to be, we don't need to go on and on, right? This light. So the light is present and so is the traveler. So I'm opening the floor. The floor is ours. So, you know, it is a focus on navigating aging. And I am curious your thoughts or feelings about what we just read, but also like how you might celebrate the holidays, whatever holidays you celebrate, and how it's maybe the same as it's always been, or how you found new ways to do it as you're aging and things change, um, and how you'll bring your loving self into this holiday season, or anything else you want to talk about. So if you want to share, you can just raise your physical hand or mechanical hand. I
Can go. So
Yeah, sure.
I grew up in Argentina, so being a Catholic country, you know, we had all the traditions of yeah, Christmas Eve was an important one for me growing up. And when I came here, I found that um, I I went through periods where I didn't have a strong community of friends, and I spent a few Christmas Eves on my own, and it was one of the many experiences that, as Ron Holnick told me a few years ago, you will develop a thick skin, and but also I think it's more than that, and is it prompted me to look for a deeper meaning of what Christmas was. And my preference is still being around friends. And I've been spending many, many years with a dear friend of mine from Spain who recently has been going to Spain with her mother is aging. So I'm looking into how I can create a little bit of that, not that Christmas, a Christmas feel, and having some friends over, and I see it like part of the etc., right? Keep evolving, keep flowing with what is, and also accepting what is, you know, and it brings a lot of, for me, it brings a lot of melancholy also. I don't know if melancholy or sadness sometimes, because it's not just that my parents are no longer here, but you know, I have not a very close relationship with one of my sisters in particular. So yeah, but it's really, I find it that it's really a beautiful journey, and I feel very um I feel a lot of comfort. I'm doing this process every year with the book. I don't know if you can see it.
It's disappearing.
Okay.
What is it called?
It's the Christ Within and the Disciples of
Oh,
Christ.
right. The John Roger book.
Yeah, and I had
Yeah.
this cosmic calendar, and it started like probably in November, end of November, and there's a meditation and there's a focus, and so it has been very comforting for me to do that every Christmas. And I'm
Well,
glad to be here.
I'm
Thank you.
glad you're here. Thank you. One thing I keep asking myself is, what do I want to create for Christmas? What is it? What does my ideal Christmas look like? And it's just, like if you say like a day or a week, right? When people take time, maybe the stores are closed, maybe people get off work and so they have more time. And in, instead of just saying, well, I've always done this, I've always gone over to my mom's house, or we always go over to my grandma's house or something. Um, and keep asking myself every year, what is it that I want to do this year? What's present this year? And taking it from a should or an expectation to like a very present intention, and uh, what's true for me now. For me, I keep also looking for areas of where can I be of service? You know, who can I bring food to or help out or put up their Christmas lights? Some of the most fun times, uh, uh, some of the, we've had a couple times that people we know have been moving into a new home during the holidays. One of our friends was getting a divorce. She had thought about for a long time. She's finally like, I'm gonna do this with my young child. And so she moved into a new home, and it was probably like 3 weeks before Christmas. And she didn't have anything unpacked. And it was all that she could think of was just to get there and comfort her child and stuff. And so we went over and put up lights at her house when she wasn't there. And she will always remember that time, uh, that she could, not only for herself but for her child, to make that like a welcome. It was home, it was holidays, it was joy. So that was a super fun service. And another friend of ours, with that had 3 kids, they just moved into like their dream home, but it was like in shambles, and they had nothing packed again. And a friend of theirs and us went over and decorated the whole home. And it was a similar experience. We got such positive feedback from the first time. We knew it was important to people, so it was fun to do again. um, yeah, so little service projects. A neighbor of mine passed away about 4 months ago, and his house is sitting there empty. And a couple days ago, I went over and I put a wreath on his front door. And I I felt like it was a way for me to connect with him, and also all the neighbors who love him and miss him. It just brought like just this wreath there on his house. Like, it looks like nobody's there for sure. But this wreath just brought this light. And I just pictured, like, if his neighbors who love and adore him go by, it could stir some fond memories of him. And his daughter's coming into town this weekend, so she can see a little something there. So um, I that means more to me than getting presents at this point. It's sort of like navigating aging. With aging, I think more of service. Like, as I'm aging, I'm thinking more of service and giving back. And um, what that makes me happy. Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
Well, I
Yeah.
have 2 things to say.
Oh, next answer. Yeah.
One is I'd like to know your answer to the question of what would you like Christmas to look like this year, but you could just tell me that whenever. And the second thing is, when I was listening to you read John Rogers' words, the whole idea of somebody loving you while they're preparing a gift for you. That's the experience I like to have. And so I'm not really into materialism. I don't want to go buy a bunch of stuff. That's sort of like what I grew up with, where there's just like an excess of that. But I do really enjoy creating something small, but because I think it's just a way to deliver my loving and to let people know I was thinking about you and I love you, and you're important to me, and I want to include you in my festivities. So we usually give something to our neighbors because we have amazing neighbors, and it's so lovely when they come knocking on the door around Christmas time. We know they're coming to deliver their love to us, and then we go knocking on their doors, and I think it's a sweet tradition that I'm really happy we participate in. Well, I'll just say I participate in. So that's my 2 cents. And answer your question anytime you want, Cheryl. I'm ready.
Well, it's a great question. So we happen to be married, so she's waiting on, like, okay, what are we doing? So the expectation is everybody goes to mom's house, her mom's house, and that's the thing to do. And so the agreement that Karen and I made for when we first got together, because I was like, look, I don't want to go to anybody, like, feel obligated to do family things that I don't want to. And at that time, Karen's family got together at least like once a month. It was like some, like Thanksgiving, but something else. There was some always to celebrate, and the expectation would be people show up. But it felt empty to me. It's sort of like when I go to some churches and they say, repeat after me. And I'm like, well, am I repeating those words? Do I mean those words? Or am I just repeating them? So that always felt funny to me. So it's important to me to decide each year to go like, is this something I'm going to do? And then you go, well, hey, they need to know if you're coming, because there's a why. Because there's always like so much food. It's not like, well, we're gonna fix food, and if you're not there, then there's gonna be so much more food. So it's not about that. Maybe they like having me there. That's probably part of it. They're like, hey, I really want you there. So sometimes I know earlier than others if it's for me to, like, okay, I know in, July, I'm going there for Christmas. Sometimes it's like a couple days beforehand. So right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to be, like where my physical body is going to be on Christmas. But it is interesting as people age and like with our either parents or family, friends, there's a sense, what if this is that person's last Christmas and I want to be there? So then it's like, oh, that feels really heavy. So my answer to that one is like, well, if there's something that I need to say or do that if I don't show up for Christmas and they die, that I'll feel regretful, I really should handle that now, today, and not wait till Christmas. So that obligatory piece doesn't ring true to me, unless it's like, yeah, there's some like, well, this person's on hospice and it's definitely going to be it, and I want to be there. So there's a difference in that, but yeah, that dilemma is real also. My mom just had her 84th birthday and she lives across the country from me. And there have been, I don't feel like, well, she's 84. She's actually very healthy. I don't think this is going to be her last Christmas, but it's possible. And she had her birthday yesterday, and that could be her last birthday. So my approach is that I am present with what I need to complete with people. I used to be a hospice social worker. And so I really got like that. It's important to be present with my decisions in the moment. If I have anything to clear, if I've always wanted to do something, what's on my bucket list. And with my own mom, I've listened to what she's wanted over time. Like she had on her bucket list to go up in a hot air balloon. So one year we invited her out, bought her a trip on a hot air balloon, and we all did it. So after the end of it was like, whoo, I was so happy that I could provide that for her. And I felt lighter because I didn't wait till, oh my gosh, she's 85 and I still haven't taken her on the balloon. We just had a trip with her a couple months ago. She came to our house in Virginia, and I've seen her recently. I don't have to go back just because it's Christmas. So again, it's just being present with where you're called to be. Where can you be loving to yourself and others this time of year? Nancy Carter, you're on mute, Nance.
I can't tell. Am I unmuted?
Yes, I can hear you now.
We have so much light coming in from the west here, the south, that is just amazing. Yeah. So as you're talking, this may be an extension somewhat of what you were talking about, Cheryl. So I soon am celebrating my 90th birthday. So people of my age range, thank you, Cheryl, people of my age range were born in the Depression. So the first thing, the first place that I go is this may not be true of any other family, but in my family, Christmas was kind of, oh yeah, it's Christmas. And we were not a wealthy family at all or anything like that. So it didn't, we didn't do Christmas trees and lights on the tree and that kind of thing. It was just kind of a holiday that was backed off. Not that my people weren't Christian. And I also am thinking, by the way, that we're talking not only to, I don't know who we're talking to, but the potential of talking to not only Christians, but people who celebrate other kinds of celebrations in this time of year that are maybe different from what we're talking about. So my people were Christian. I'm thinking maybe they were relying on the church to bring in the meaning of the period that we call Christmas. As I look back at my life, I think that I have spent a lot of time resisting the symbols of Christmas in their secular clothing, because the symbols of Christmas have, it seems to me, this is just me, the symbols of Christmas have sort of, if they ever had their meaning, their true meaning, they've lost it, but they had lost it by the time I was born. I'll say it that way, in my perception. I mean, this may be horrifying to any of you, and I'm sorry for that. Because I attended church and all those good things when I was young, and I still do. But the symbol of the cross, for instance, which isn't Christmas, of course, but ties in, the symbol of the child in the manger, the symbol of the wise men and gold and frankincense and myrrh, and all those things had meaning at one time, really deep meaning. And it's a struggle to try to recapture what that meaning is and what it means to me today. So that's what I'm thinking about. Sorry, my voice is kind of crazy right now, so who knows why. God bless everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Great to hear you, Nancy, by the way.
Thanks, Marita.
I thought I'd share a little bit. My parents brought me here to the United States when I was about 10, 11. And I remember in Colombia, where I'm from, Christmas time is, it's another time for partying. In other words, you party, you don't, this is a time you get together and you dance and there's a big feast, but there's also a few days before you do a similar La Novena, which is I don't know what they call it here, where every day, maybe 10 days prior, every night, you get together with your family and neighbors and you do a little prayer and you sing also Christmas songs. And there's very much the focus of the Jesus that's going to be born. And when you're a kid, it's like, it's a great time. You know, there's always something sweet afterwards. It's like a lot of fun. And we come to the United States, and my first memory of, which was a very special one actually, that I still remember to this day, is that I remember on our Christmas, it was extremely quiet. It was just my parents and we were 3 kids, and it was very quiet, no partying, you know, necessarily. And but there was a group of kids that knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and these kids start singing their caroling. They're going door to door caroling, and I thought, wow, look, and these kids with these beautiful clothes, you know, I think very British dress. It's winter, it's cold, you know, it's Southern California winter time for me. I suffer because I'm thinking of the tropical weather where I would be spending Christmas time at instead of the winter. But I always remember that, and my parents, of course, did the little manger, and you know, we exchanged gifts, and as the years progressed, the exchanging of the gifts became bigger and bigger, and it's like now it takes almost a living, with all we're like the third generation now, there's my nephews now have their kids, and so these trees, it's like half of the room is full of gifts for these kids who don't need another toy, who don't need any more stuff, it's like, and so it's an interesting thing. And of course, we do start Christmas Eve, so our tradition would be we always go to the MSI seminar with John or JR when he was with us, and then we would drive all the way from Santa Monica all the way to Riverside. It'd be like a 2-hour drive out there, and then spend the evening, and at midnight then you have dinner, and then you have the opening of the gifts. So the kids all stay up, and everybody, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of food, a lot of music. My mom would make sure there'd be a lot of festivities and all of that. So it's different this year. This year my mom is not with us, but my sister says, oh, we can get together, so we still go to her house and get together, because that's what we usually would do, because that's where the kids are at, and her grandkids will come and share. And that midnight gathering, or the evening, the Christmas Eve, is very, very important. I did see here at the San Juan Capistrano mission, they have a lights kind of a show. You can go to the mission, and they have a tree lighting, and then there's also caroling. And then I thought, gee, maybe I can go see those English kids singing again. And they said they have a manger, because one of my big pet peeves over the years, is that as our society, at least here in my neighborhood, has progressed in they have moved away from the Jesus and the manger and the Jesus the Christ celebration to a more of Santa tree, what to me seems like pagan. I'm sorry. So it's beautiful. I mean, they do beautiful decorations. It's gorgeous here in the Bay. We have a friend who lives right on the water here, and so the last week before Christmas, there's this beautiful parade, and he always has his party, and so we're going to go to his house to watch the parade go by with the beautiful lights and and beautiful trees. So there you go. That's I am one of the big lessons I want to share with you that I learned at Thanksgiving, which was I was dreading not having my mom around for Thanksgiving, because things were so evolved around her, but it worked out great. It worked out great because I really I love to cook. So I got into my cooking, and I had Ronaldo's family all came over. I had 12 guests that needed to be fed, and I just went 100% into let me do my best job. And I was so into it that I didn't even know, it was just, I enjoyed it tremendously. And there was no sense of emptiness, which I thought was great. And that's what I'm shooting for Christmas. Feeling full, feeling love. That's what I ask for.
Yeah, thank you. I love visualizing, the Christmas of your childhood, and then also this is your first holidays that your mom isn't here physically, right? So that can be a big change. And so it sounds like what I heard from you is that the focus on doing something that you love, like the cooking, and also that's a service to other people, because I'm sure they're enjoying your cooking, that really lightened your holiday.
Yeah, definitely. One of the interesting things about that last night, it was one of those, yesterday was hard. And it was hard because I feel like my mom left and I was left empty, and I don't have a purpose now. It's so strange to feel like I have, the job, the work that I do, the business that I have needs attention, and I have the least interest in doing it or anything, to do with any of that. And it's that's what I was telling, even I was feeling like I have no purpose all of a sudden. It's like it's totally, he went poof. So I put the light around that because I really need another project. I need something that will fill me, you know. I don't have grandchildren, so I have a wonderful son who's doing great and doesn't need me.
Mhm.
And which is what we raised them to be, you know, be independent and take care of themselves. So, you know, I kind of done my job there, I think. And so anyway.
Mhm. That's beautiful. It is truly seasons of our life. Like our daughter's 16, she's a junior in high school, and we're already, you know, we're feeling the change, the transition starting of she's going to be going away to college, and you know, she's going to be in the going away coming back. And I remember when she was little, like we knew everything she did because we were always there. And then she started going to school, or she'd come back with things like, you talk about things like, where did you hear that from? I thought I knew everything you knew. Until like now, you know, all these seasons pass and she's in that place. And at the same time, our parents are, you know, my parents are getting older. My dad's passed about 5 years ago, but my mom's getting older. Karen's mom's getting older. So I'm like in this place right now, just celebrating where we are now. Each transition, you know, I remember when Mackenzie would go into her next stage. Like now she's walking, now she's going to school. Like I just, and it was like it seemed like it was just when I thought I got things down. Things are good. I know how to do this. And then it would change. And so embracing that change is like I've been in uh, practice with that of like accepting the new, letting go of the old, and then what's the same in all of that. And then for me, it always comes down to like I am the same in all of that. Like no matter what season I'm in, I'm here. Maybe I can move a little differently, or my body looks a little different, or I have different friends or things, but I am the same in all of that. And then you know, like you know, like for you, like I'm the one in the kitchen cooking. I am. And when, yeah, and it's brand new. Like I just, you know, give yourself so much grace, and it's beautiful, like to have this space. You know, it's changed. Your purpose is changed. It's not the focus on your caring for your mom. And you know, someone once told me like, oh, take a year and think about what you want to do for the next year. And I was like, are you serious? A year? Can't we do this in like a couple weeks? A year seemed like so long to me. But it seems like there's something magical in the year, or maybe it's even just a giving yourself like this is going to take some time, and enjoy that also. You don't have to get to that time. It's like the process is the journey is the goal. Like just enjoying this is what's happening right this minute. And you know, it's nice to be in a place that you don't have to go back into the grind. Like I got to start working tomorrow because I need money. I, you know, I won't be able to pay the bills and all that. It's like no, I'm going to give myself time. You know, there's a big opening when she transitioned, so it feels like that's still open. You know, especially with the holidays now, it's like, you know, the angels come here, and so it's just like just enjoy it. So thanks for sharing your beautiful heart. Hi, Mariella.
Thank you for your sharing, Marisa. And of course, it brought memories because mom passed, you know, over a year ago. So for me, it's recognizing that it's like you, I have my business, and suddenly it was like, I don't care. And I learned that I had to allow that to be, and handle the things that I could handle, and allowing me to have a little bit of mess in areas, and because it's you know, she represents a lot of things. Also, she represent that safety, given that I don't have my own family. I don't have a husband at the moment or partner. I don't have children. She was somewhere I could go always, you know, if something happened to me. And suddenly I was like, where am I going? So it has been for me really deepening the relationship with myself and knowing that I can always come back to me and, you know, I can find the spirit inside of me. And has been beautiful and has been everything, because it's really another letting go of the many that we go through life. The other thing I wanted to comment when you was talking, Tori, about making choices and not, you know, complying to the traditions. Many years ago, I remember when the last Christmas my father was here, not that I knew that was his last Christmas, something had happened in the family a few months earlier. I went for a wedding and didn't go very well. And I remember I called him in December and I said, you know, Dad, I decided I'm not going home for Christmas, you know, based on what happened. And I thought he was going to be very disappointed. And he said, you know, Mariela, Christmas is every day. And I support your decision. And shortly after, one day I was listening, I heard yours talking about traditions, and he said traditions, the translation from Latin means to betray the present. And I started looking at all the traditions I have and all the traditions that I built and all the shoots. And I've been getting freer slowly of all that. It's like, you know, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And as you said, it's like, does it work for me to be doing this at this time with these people? And I find that as we are growing in wisdom, there's an opportunity to be more and more loyal to who we are, you know, rather than being loyal to the traditions, to what people expect from us. And I find it sometimes hard, but also very liberating.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hi, Mary.
Hello. I want to appreciate everyone for sharing what they are in such a heartfelt way. I haven't had the experience of connecting with people at such a level for a while because I'm, far from my closest friends, although we Skype all the time and stuff. But I don't have connection to Christmas. I don't have connection to holidays. I don't have a connection to my mom. She's dead. I didn't have much of a connection to her when she died. I was just happy she went because she wasn't in good shape. And I need to respect more. I mean, hearing what you're all saying helps me to respect the people who do have those feelings. Not having the traditions feels great to me. I mean, I'm not feeling any sense of loss or missing anything. I have a tremendous sense of freedom to create whatever I want to create. My celebrations are when I go to the States and visit my daughter and her family. So I make a choice. Okay, I'm going to do that trip. And that's a massive celebration. And I get to see family and friends, and I get to choose when I'm going to do that. I've lived my life, I guess, certainly recently, differently in terms of traditions. And I mean, I grew up Jewish, but not religiously Jewish. So I just viewed Christmas as a holiday that other people had that, we didn't respect it very much. It's like, oh, they believe that. I wanted a Christmas tree because it was very pretty. So I used to love Thanksgiving, but now I'm in a place where nobody does it. And I don't miss it anymore. I did a little bit in the beginning.
So I create my own celebrations, my own loving, my own gatherings. So it's a different sort of thing. But I also feel a very strong desire to respect other people's experience, and to hear what it is helps me. I love giving gifts all the time. I love giving gifts in the sense that's been described. And I do that when I want to. So I just want to let you guys know that not everybody has the same experience. And it's very important for me to know what your experiences are. So thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And I definitely want to include every kind of celebration, Hanukkah to Kwanzaa to anything people celebrate. And I think the what I've been hearing is it's beyond to think of it as beyond a certain holiday like day. And that's what I rebel against, like February 14th is Valentine's Day. So you got to buy a card and you got to do it. It's like, why? Like, can you celebrate that every day? So I guess there is something that is special because people set aside the time. Like, this is a time we celebrate whatever. And usually a lot of the celebrations or the time people take off work or focus on it is around this time of year. And it would be beautiful to just have it every day. Christmas is every day, truly. And because of the history and the rituals, a lot of people tend to have issues, concerns, challenges this time of year, or maybe it's a first time of year that they've lost their loved ones not there, or that they're in a new relationship, or they're trying new things. So I am taking, Mary, I'm taking you in as far as there's this freedom in it to not have to lock into a certain day or a certain holiday. And it's gorgeous. Thanks for sharing that. Nancy.
Cheryl? Yeah, it occurs to me to bring this back to caregiving for a moment, because if we are with somebody who is bedridden or who is old or who is any of those things, undoubtedly they will have stories and traditions and ways to express that. If you could stimulate that, appreciate what they're saying, all in the interest of helping them appreciate their lives toward the end of their lives, I think that's part of our job. That's it.
That's beautiful. And I love, I'm going to circle back again, Mary, that I love the word that it's such a loving feeling I get when you're saying, I want to respect you. It's like finding out about people's story. Like, why, like you might be with a friend a couple days after Christmas or a couple days after Hanukkah or whatever it is that time, like, and they might be sad or they might be agitated or they might be joyful, and you're like, why is that going on? And then when you hear the whole story about, oh, there's this tradition and there's this, so it makes more sense in the person's whole story. So I love that. And I'll say, I'll take this time. Nancy has been on my mind like throughout our time here today. And I've seen Nancy be in herself, like she brings Christmas. Nancy brings Christmas every day. I haven't seen, because she's been like physically away from, I've known Nancy for 40 years, because most of the time she's away from her blood family. She doesn't live near them. Her dad passed away a long time ago. And what I see is Nancy brings her loving like it's Christmas wherever she goes. Like she's in a new home now. So she's, living with, there's other people around that she didn't know before. And so she shows up like, oh, where is my ministry? Who am I to meet now? Like, it's an exciting gift. Who's going to move in that I can meet, that who's God's bringing in front of me? Who can I have lunch with tomorrow? And, she listens to their story. She finds out about them. Sometimes sometimes it could be bringing a gift like, oh, I had this book that I knew you'd like, and just you give it to them. So that's, to me, that's the idea of around the Christ Mass, if we want to say, or like just a remembrance of being loving. And, there's lots of people that want to be around Nancy because they feel that loving from her. Thank you for being a great example, Nancy, in my life.
Well, we're all blessed by being with each other or connecting somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I was working in hospice, and I knew, and hospice is usually, people have got approximately 6 months or less to live, but there's something going on, some terminal diagnosis that the person that gets on hospice typically dies. Sometimes they don't, but it's usually like, okay, there's some end to this, where in life, we don't really know, right? Could be gone today, tomorrow, year, 10 years, 50 years. So there's this unknowing, but in hospice is like, okay, there looks like there's kind of going to be an end here. And so people, rally and behave differently in that time, because they know, like, I need to, there's some end, right? And I was fascinated by the concept of loving that person 100% as long as they're here. And in the next breath, it could be being willing to let them go and living in that place. And I see that because if we just go like, well, most people live, a long time, and they're 70, 80, 90, maybe 100, and they pass away. So as soon as, like, with this aging, with people around us aging, you think like, well, there's some end to it right now. Nobody lives forever so far. So loving someone completely and being okay inside, accepting if they're here or not here. Is this going to be their last Christmas? Is this going to be their last birthday? Is it going to be my last birthday? And being willing to love and to share and to be vulnerable in that way, and to even need somebody, right? I need you in my life, or I want you in my life. And then being willing to let them go, and then realizing they're just a reflection of me. If every relationship's inside of us, like, I'm still with me and they're still with me in their way. I don't know what's happening the last week, but I've felt a couple of people that were close to me in their ways have passed away over the last, I'll say, year, 6 months. And something that I have of, maybe they've given me, or maybe they've done for me. My neighbor was very handy, so I'll look at something he created for me or fixed. And then I've just been flooded with their loving. They're so present with me. So to me, that's the Christ Mass, the oneness. And it's a beautiful thing when we move into that. So it doesn't have to be a day on the calendar, but it's just with us all the time. Anybody else have anything to share before we close for today? Gregory, yes.
off the topic, even though I could probably talk a lot about Christmas or any kind of celebration, because I grew up in a family where on my mother's side there was 12 kids and on my father's 16. And so I had nephews, or not nephews, cousins out the kazoo to go things and weddings and funerals and Christmases and Thanksgiving and well, I look at all these kinds of things as opportunities just to be in celebration, whether I was dragged along to them or not at the time. There's always, cousins or to play with, or things to get involved with, or make trouble with, and lots of food to eat, and aunts that things like that. So I grew up in all that. That's why I look at it that way. And my wife is one that grew up in a much more harsher kind of environment. So she looks to Christmas and things to create a framework for her to celebrate. So Christmas time for her is going through all the Hallmark Channel Christmas things, movies and stuff like that, and taking time to put things and creating traditions for that, and I see it, and I involve myself because it's a time just to get away and into what is, rather than, like you mentioned, work and other kinds of things, or trials and tribulations, or whatever levels of stuff that go on the planet to do that. So celebration time in that special part, but not a party time, just a celebration time. So it puts me more into that state myself, and with giving and taking. Just like I like doing cards now, Christmas cards, though it's harder to find them because everybody's doing everything else. It doesn't want to trade them because physically it's something to write it down. And at one time I used to make my own Christmas cards to do that physically for myself, but it very much like what was mentioned before and what you did, Cheryl, it brings you present in that, and actually in your heart, and doing stuff and receiving stuff at the same time. That was the first thing, just to say that I like the topic that you brought up this time. The other thing was to go back to something that came up a couple times ago from people, is I went and from the library and got the book by Bredesen on the whole Alzheimer's thing, and found out that it's more than just an Alzheimer's, dementia things. It's how find the things in an alternate way of looking at treating yourself, suffering and misery and things, and this kind of very what's the word, technological world that we live in now. It's pollution, also. But I was wondering if, I know some of the people who shared got involved in going through the program, and I'm wondering if there's any practitioners that go through all the different kinds of testing and things like that, and evaluation, because it certainly isn't one, as you mentioned, a book that's done in the basic kind of medical, Kaiser kind of hospital kind of way of doing medicine with doctors, even though I think some of them would love to do it that way. So either if you could post it, if there are, people, that'd be great, Cheryl. If not, if you could in some way make it available, I'd appreciate it. I might want to look into it more. And I know people who might not want to look into it more. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. So, with the book, End of Alzheimer's, you were breaking up for some of that, or you kind of lost you. But what the essence of it, it sounded like what you said was that, is there anybody that I know that works with the kind of work that is? And so right now there's no treatment for Alzheimer's. You'd say, like, so you go to a doctor, they're gonna maybe give you some pills to maybe make your activities of daily living, maybe improve them, maybe not. But there are a lot of alternative people, like that will talk about reducing inflammation, and that's a big key for general health and also dementia. And I would probably try either universities like UCLA, UCI, things like that, or big university near you, or a nutritionalist near you. The book that you held up, The End of Alzheimer's, they may have some resources in the back of people that focus on that aspect of it. But things that they recommend, like neurologists recommend for Alzheimer's, are basically things that all of us could use for our general well-being and health. Reducing sugar, increasing your time you sleep, reducing stress, increasing your movement, just move, walk, do something like that. Reducing inflammation, so foods that reduce inflammation, or supplements that help with that. And it's great if you can get a tailored program to what you need. And I found that, and found a local nutritionist that did some testing, some blood work, found out what foods react to me. So there's that option. Did that answer your question, Gregory?
Yes, in general ways. More specifically, if there's practitioners who actually follow that regimen, who've done it, and who've actually, and I'm sure it's not going to be cheap, but it's those kinds of things. I'm very much, because this is the first time I've run across this kind of broad spectrum of treating dementia, Alzheimer's, as basically not an end thing, but a symptom of a whole bunch of other things going on, but maybe coming from it could be totally different areas that are creating it, or combinations of all the different areas of your body system that might be doing it. From inflammation to blood things to pollutants that are through in terms of air and molds and bacterial things that could be happening in all the levels like that, and who actually are connected, know where to set up the ability to do the body and find it out.
Right. I don't know of one specific practitioner or a group that does that. And I think it's so individual. I do believe there's more to dementia than we know, or that medical doctors know about. So, I think the books End Alzheimer's and Cure Alzheimer's now, I think those are misleading, especially if I have people with Alzheimer's, for example, and they read something like that, or there's a study, it's in the paper, about once a year, like new potential cure found, and the people with Alzheimer's or dementia get really excited, and they go like, oh, maybe there's a chance. And there's nothing like that right now, except something might work for somebody. So, it's just trying things and being in tune with yourself to go, yeah, this makes sense. I could do this better. I could do more of this. So there's not necessarily one way or one practitioner, but each of those elements have different practitioners that work with that now. And so, if the book suggests like 10 different areas, just check something out, see if it works. See if more sunlight helps you. See if more omega-3 helps, and just do the best you can with that. So. All right. Well, thank you all for being with us, and I love you, and have a wonderful week. We will hope to see you next week. All right.